normally only go live on a Wednesday. But I did say to you yesterday that we were expecting a large flare delivery, and a large flare delivery. This is not even a fraction of it. So I decided that what I would do today was a class maybe on treatment of roses and give you some information and a couple of tricks and little tips that you can use maybe at home. So first of all, introduce yourself, let us know who's watching, where you're watching in from, and obviously what's the weather like in your part of the country. Have to say, I'm killed with the heat here today. Absolutely melting we are. You know that way. It's really, really warm.
Quick change of your top.
Yeah. Wasn't wearing this top 5 minutes ago. This is just a quick change. So again, if you have any questions at all in relation to treatment of any flares, to be honest, and again, if there's anybody watching there that hasn't yet availed of our free online treatment and conditioning course, why don't you comment below and just kind of put a comment that you'd love the link, okay? So basically what it is, it's an online course. There's over 60 different tutorials on it, covering the treatment and conditioning of over 60 different varieties of flowers and foliage. It's like an encyclopedia that you'll refer back to over and over and over again. And obviously, because they're classes, I have a lot more time to give maybe a lot more detail in them, you know what I mean, than I would maybe on a live class. So if you'd like, it's absolutely free. If anybody would like to avail of that, just put in the comments there that you'd love the link, and then we'll answer it and respond to you, and we'll put the link underneath.
And if you're watching on Instagram Live, we can't comment to your comments, but it is in the bio on Instagram. And if you're on TikTok, we won't be able to reply to your comments either, so it's in the link on TikTok too. So
and if anyone can't find it at all, the best thing to do is drop us an email, info@flowerschoolireland.com, and we'll just email the link back to you. It's really easy. You just sign up with your email address, you put in your own password, you have your own account then on our online site, and you can access it at any time. And as I said, it costs you absolutely nothing.
Emma Rose is watching in from Westport, and it's raining in the west. Well, it's not raining here.
I seen your Facebook page this morning, Emma Rose, and I seen Jessica, your daughter, but I couldn't make out who the singer was. I presume it's a singer. Obviously, it's somebody famous, and you said in the question or in the comment you have, look at her T-shirt. But I'm obviously not with it, and I hadn't a clue who it was, so maybe comment.
But she looked great.
She looked brilliant, she did. I just didn't know who the fella was beside her.
Probably a big hello to Jessica. She's probably watching.
Probably.
Helping her mummy.
Who was on the T-shirt, that she was wearing, because she looked absolutely amazing. See, we'd be watching you, you know, that way. You think now, just because we're up here in Dublin, we don't know what's going on down in Westport. Okay, so today...
Barbie was on the T-shirt.
Barbie?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Couldn't make it out, Jessica. You were sitting down and I couldn't see it. You need to stand up and stick your chest out. Okay, so today we're going to talk about roses, okay? And the red roses that I have in at the moment, I think I did mention the other day that we're doing a fundraising event, okay? It's in memory of Darren Lacken, who is an amazing hairdresser who passed away there recently. And his boyfriend, is doing a fundraising gala ball. That's the best way to describe it. It's going to be amazing. It's in the Mansion House this coming Saturday night. The theme is red and black, you know that way. So even ourselves, it's black tie. Fellas have to wear tuxedos. Ladies all have to dress up in either red or black. I think Deirdre's wearing red and I'm wearing black. And obviously all the flower arrangements are going to be, we're kind of going for red roses, red anthuriums. Haven't got time to show you there today. There's about 30 boxes of them, and I haven't even started unpacking them yet. So as soon as this live is over, I'll be stripping back again, putting on my worktop and getting stuck back into it. Oh, in case I forget, at 1 o'clock, so it's just after 12 now, at 1 o'clock over in the Kay's Flowery Fun group. Now, if you're not a member of that, you will have to request to join it. Maybe if one of our little secretaries is watching, they might put the link to the Kay's Flowery Fun group. If you just put the @ Kay's Flowery Fun group, it should come up for you. You can just request to join that. That's free as well, by the way. And that's for anybody that's interested in flowers. But at 1 o'clock today, we have Denise Inspired coming in to do a 15-minute interview with Deirdre. You'll have to get glammed up, Deirdre.
I will, yeah. Gosh, yeah, I forgot about that.
Here behind the camera. 15-minute interview with Denise about marketing and content creation. So anybody that's in business, has a social media page, this might interest you. And then we're going to pop over to Instagram at 1:15. And again, we'll do 15 minutes over on Instagram. Instagram. So if you missed the 1 o'clock on the Kay's Flowery Fun group, you can pop over to the Kay's Flower School Instagram page, and we'll do the interview with Denise over there as well. So that's going to be at 1 o'clock. Right, back to our roses. So you often hear me mention about a Dutch grower, obviously over in Holland if he's Dutch, called Porta Nova, okay? And Deirdre and myself, we were so lucky about 3 years ago, and hopefully we'll do it again very soon, way before COVID, we made a trip to Holland and we were lucky enough to actually visit Porta Nova, which is a grower, okay, and all he grows is roses called Naomi Roses. And the Naomi Roses, you either have red Naomi, which is what I have here, or you also have white Naomi. Now, when it comes around to Valentine's Day, or even peak times when people want red flowers, you know, the way, even for this weekend with the Heart Foundation fundraiser for Darren Lacken, and when Mark was saying to me about red roses, and I said the best red rose on the market is red Naomi. And the best grower, because there is other growers in Holland that grow...
in our opinion,
yeah, obviously. There is other growers that grow red Naomi and white Naomi, but the Porta Nova is the queen bee. You know, that way they are definitely top of the pops. You know, that way they definitely know what they're doing. And we were absolutely amazed, you know, that way, where with the white rose bush, not that it only produces one white rose a day, but it's only possible that one white rose per bush, you know, that way, is ready to be picked each day. So if you think like, why are they so expensive, you can understand that's why. And where with the red ones, they can actually harvest a red rose in the morning and a red rose in the evening time. Now the bush would have a lot more roses on it, but they're not ready to be picked. So you can understand, you know, the way why they're so expensive. And plus the grading of them is so severe. Like all we seem to, well, not like all, but they had one huge big skip, like what you'd see if somebody was doing construction work in their house. And it was literally full of roses, discarded roses, that didn't meet the bunch, you know, that way, that the quality wasn't good enough, the head wasn't the right size, the diameter of the flower wasn't the right size, and basically they just fecked them out.
And they compost them all and recycle.
Yeah,
and the other thing as well, which I really found interesting when we were there, was that they don't use chemicals.
No.
They use the little
they actually have bags of bugs.
Yeah, bugs. Yeah, that's basically.
So they had little,
and we had them on our hands, like.
Yeah. They were like nits.
Yeah.
Like nits. And where he was throwing them in, you know what I mean? And again, that's how they kind of controlled, you know, like bug infestations, etc. You know, that way. And before we even went into the glass houses, and when I say the glass house, the greenhouse, these were absolutely huge, they were. But we had to sterilise our hands and all. And
we wear the things on our feet.
COVID. Put things on our feet, cover our feet and everything going in. Everything scrupulously clean, you know, that way, making sure that there was no viruses, no bacteria, no infection, you know, that way. Not affecting us, affecting the flowers. That's how well they look after them. I'd say they didn't give a shit about us.
No.
Again, if you have any questions, put them in the comments there. So these roses, you can actually see, they have the name Porta Nova, you know, that way, everlasting quality. And they normally wrap them in 10s. So normally when you buy roses, it is possible to buy them in bunches of 20s. But because they want to kind of, again, the quality and that everything like won't get damaged, they just pack their roses in 10s. So I'm just going to go through what we do to the roses when we get them in. So the first thing I do is we get our scissors and we remove the plastic. So if anybody's taking little notes there, again, you can always watch this on the replay and take a few notes for yourselves. But flowers release a gas, all flowers by the way, release a gas called ethylene gas. And ethylene gas is a maturing, ripening gas. So basically it makes things ripen faster. If at home you've ever left a tomato in a plastic bag, and after you go to it after a few days, you'll find that the tomato is gone all mushy and soggy. And that's because fruit and veg is the same. They release ethylene gas. And when the tomato was inside the plastic bag, it couldn't escape, and what it did was it reacted on itself. In saying that, the tomato that maybe you left in your fruit bowl, you know the way, or loose on the shelf, that one was probably perfect. Same things happen with carrots. You leave carrots in the plastic bag and all the outside of them goes slimy after a few days. But if they had been left in a paper bag or loose on your vegetable rack, they would have been perfect. So the same thing, if you can kind of relate to something, do you know the way? Same thing happens to the roses. when they're inside the plastic, they're sweating, but also the ethylene gas can't escape and it reacts on itself, and that's why your roses, you know what I mean, will die faster. So when you get any flowers, whether they're Portanova Naomi Roses or they're from your supermarket or your local florist, most times they will come wrapped in plastic, which is all to do with the transporting, and because they're in fridges, it's to protect them from the cold. But it is important that you remove the plastic off the flowers. The next thing, near the end of the bunch, there's either going to be a little cable wrap or an elastic band, okay? There's an elastic band on these ones. It's important that you cut off the elastic band. So the elastic band is restricting any water getting up the stem. So if you leave the elastic band on the flowers and you have them in your, you know, your vase at home, on your kitchen table, whatever, it does restrict the water getting up the stem. So it'd be like if you put a tight elastic band around your wrist, you kind of find after a while you lose the numbness in your fingers. Well, that's exactly what's happening to the flowers. And again, I find if you understand why to do all these things, it makes more sense to you. The next thing is all the flowers obviously have foliage, you know, that way coming down the stem. Now obviously there's flowers out there that may not have foliage on them. Like we, as I said, we've about 30 boxes. We've actually 600 anthuriums, okay, that still have to be conditioned and treated. And they wouldn't have any foliage on the stem. So that will save us a little bit of time.
Hence why we bought them.
Hence why we bought them, exactly. We were making life easy for ourselves. Now this is something I definitely recommend everybody to go and invest in. It's called a stem stripper, okay? And it's for stripping your stems, or people call it a foliage remover, okay? It's for removing the foliage off your flowers. It works on any flowers, okay? Obviously not anthuriums because they haven't got foliage. But your chrysanthemums or your lilies or your lysianthus, whatever you're going to use, these are absolutely brilliant. And this isn't a sales pitch, but we do have them for sale on our website under Floral Sundries, www.flowerschoolisland.com, if anybody is interested in buying one. So what you do to your rose, okay, is you literally just run it down. Look how easy that was, okay? And then so you're supposed to have the bin beside you. And then you take up your next rose and you do exactly the same thing. And what this is also doing, because these are a bugger for thorns, okay? There was some language here this morning when we were going through treating them all. Like there was more fecks and everything else kind of said, because every so often we kept getting a thorn, you know, that we stuck in our hand. So the stem stripper, what it does is it takes the spike off the top of the thorn, but it doesn't actually damage the flower stem. Where I have seen people get a scissors, now this is
That's
wrong
actually a
to
question
do.
that has just come up, is
Okay.
can you remove the thorns?
Yeah.
Do you remove the
What
thorns?
some people do is they use the scissors and they do what I'm doing here now. Now that would be like me doing that I'm not going to do it to my finger, you know the way. It's obviously going to scratch because they're quite soft on the outside, and it is going to damage the outside of the stem. And when you take the whole thorn off, okay, it's like, if you, this sounds disgusting, it's like picking a sore. So you know kids, and they have a sore on their leg or their finger, some adults is like, and they pick it. And they're picking the scab off. Well, that's basically what you're doing to the flower, okay? Is you're picking off the thorn and you're leaving now an open wound on the stem of the flower. Plus you've scratched all the skin, you know, that way, kind of surrounding it. So now any bacteria, any infection is obviously going to get into the flower. So by using the stem stripper, you know, that way you're not damaging the stem because you're not scratching it, because you can get metal. It doesn't look like this obviously, but years ago there was a metal version out there where I definitely recommend, like, you know, look how soft and flexible and pliable, you know, and how bendy-wendy this is, you know, the way, absolutely brilliant, you know, that way. And as I said, it doesn't damage the stem at all, and it just takes the spike, so it doesn't remove the thorn, okay, but it just takes that little, you know, the little prick off the top of it, basically. That's really what it does. And an odd time you might have to kind of like rub it down twice, you know, that way, where it might miss a leaf, like say just missed one there, you just kind of go back up and down again, and if that doesn't work, you can just pull them off with your fingers. It would happen on the second last one, wouldn't it? And again, there you go. Now, all them foliage leaves, what we normally do then is we have a compost bin, put them, and that all goes off for compost. But because I haven't got the bin beside me, it has to go into the magic bin. Most of you might realise I have a magic bin here in the school. The next thing that we do is with our cellophane, okay? And I've often said this to the students, where some people get the cellophane and they scrunch it up and they stick it down into a separate plastic bag, and that'll obviously go in your kind of like your plastic bin. But what you find is if you actually fold it, you know the way, so you could layer a few pieces of plastic on top of each other, do you know that way? And kind of like fold it a little bit neater. Do you see the difference? Look how small and look how little space it'll take up. Now I know that was only one sheet, you know the way, but I would have done a couple of sheets together. Now for the moment that's going in the magic bin, do you know that way? But that would go in our plastic bin, and then we would have all the greenery would go in our compost bin. Now these roses, as again, an exceptionally good quality for them, do you know that way? And you will find they will need very, very little treatment, because they would have done a lot of the treatment to the roses before they even came to the auctions. But roses that you might buy from other growers, not necessarily Red Naomi, but we just say even people watching here that maybe buy their roses in the supermarkets, you may find that the stems are a little bit floppy, okay? They're obviously not going to be as good a quality. And you can't compare a rose and by saying, oh, these roses are 90 cents in one place, $4.90 in another place, you know that way, and $5.50. I'm just randomly giving prices there, and then kind of saying comparing like with like, because they're not like.
It's like, I suppose, Christmas or Valentine's Day, and some of the supermarkets are selling a dozen roses for €12.99.
Yeah.
And a flower shop is selling a dozen roses for €60. It's the quality.
Yeah,
it's the
they're paying for the quality, you know that way. And until they're literally side by side, and we've actually done a few videos like around Christmas time like that, showing this is the dozen roses out of such a supermarket. We won't name any supermarket. And then this is like, say, the dozen roses from, say, your local flower shop. And they're chalk and cheese.
And how they last.
Exactly.
You know?
Now, the other thing that you could do to the roses is you could remove the guard petals. And we do this all the time. And that just means pinching off 2 or 3 petals around the outside. And you can see here, I've been collecting them. I don't know what I'm going to do with them all. Do you know?
But now, if you had a dehydrator, which we don't, but
don't.
if we had a dehydrator, you could throw them in there and dry them all out.
And you'd have all dried rose petals. Or if we made our own perfume, Deirdre.
I remember we used to do that as a kid.
Yeah, as a kid, we used to make our own perfume. You see, the flowers was always in us. So what you have to do, and again, you know, I mean, we've done this morning. We went through 600 roses. We've removed the 3 guard petals off the outside of each of the roses, okay? Now, if you don't remove them, see if they have the little marks on them, you know that way, people sometimes think that the rose is dead when they see these petals. So that's why we remove them, do you know that way? And the thing is, like, these roses are so fresh, they're absolutely perfect. So this is perfectly normal to have to remove these petals, okay? But it is time consuming, and it does take, yes, you know, it does take a little bit of time. The reason is, when the rose is born, that's the best way. When it was a little baby bud, okay, just after coming out of its mammy's tummy, it didn't come out of its mammy's tummy, but when it was a little bud, these were the 3 petals coming up around the outside of that bud, okay? And obviously they have got tattered and bashed and battered, and they've taken all the weathering until that rose eventually kind of bloomed, okay? And that's why then it's like our poor grannies, you know that way. Of course they look wrinkled and battered. Sure, they're after rearing our mothers, and they're probably rearing us as well, do you know that way? So again, it's to do with age. These would be the older petals, you know that way, because they would have been around the rose.
Jeanette, Hilary wants to know that did we get roses on module 1, and if so, does she need to go and buy a stem strippers?
You get a stem stripper for free, Hilary, so don't worry about that. So do you remember I said to you with module 1, you buy feck all. Feckin' nothing, absolutely nothing, okay? Everything is sent out to you. If you need a stem stripper, which you will, because there is roses sent to you on module 1, on module 2, on module 3 and module 4. Roses are sent out on all the modules right across the board. So on module 1 you get your stem stripper. You need a scissors, you know that way, mine's gone on the floor there I think. Scissors is sent out to you. You'll need everything that you need
flower
is
food.
sent out to you. The flower food, everything is sent out to you. The only thing that you'll have to buy is buckets or vases. And day 1 in the bloom room, so don't even ask me about that yet, we give you a link to a wholesaler that we've organised that you can buy all your buckets wholesale, and you'll be buying the proper ones, you know that way. Now in saying that, in the meantime, Hilary, if you're in Lidl or Aldi, talk nice to the manager and ask him has he any free buckets, because they always have loads of free buckets, okay, out the back. They're not the best, but listen, they do you know what I mean? Again, it's comparing like with like. They're not going to be as good as the buckets that we'll tell you to buy, but listen, you'll never have enough buckets. You'll need 10 buckets for your class, okay, because there's 10 different bunches of flowers kind of sent out to you, 10 different varieties is what I meant to say, and you can't mix varieties with other varieties, you know that way. So you will need 10 separate buckets. for storing the flowers for your class. But if you were doing, so like say today, I think we had 56 buckets kind of filled, you know that way, because there will be times, you know what I mean, that you may need more flowers. So with these 10 roses, I have now removed all the guard petals. And what I'm now going to do is I'm going to match up all the heads, you see, like side by side. Now, if these were, which they are, right, if these were, say, a good quality rose, you could get away with doing what I'm going to show you next. But as I said, chances are the roses that you're using may be a cheaper variety. So I have my 10 roses up like all the same height. And what I'm now going to do is get a sheet of brown paper. Now this could be any type of brown paper, recycling paper, or even the paper from the flowers. So sometimes when the flowers come, they're wrapped in brown paper rather than in cellophane. Again, it's to protect them from the cold during transport. So we would keep the brown paper and use it for that.
Somebody says Morrison's in the UK have 8 buckets for 99 pence, but she says they do break easily.
Yeah, they're probably what we call the free buckets. So when the flowers come in from Holland, they often send them like aqua packed, as they call it, you know that way. So they're actually in water, and they come in them cheap buckets. And if you got the bucket and you squeeze the top of it, it nearly crack. But what you could do is put 2 or 3 inside each other, because that's what I would say to the students to do, and it strengthens them up. Now what happens is when you put 2 or 3 inside each other, you'd want power strength to try and separate them afterwards. Like they all stick inside each other.
And in fairness, our flower buckets, we have them for
years. Some of them
20
over
years
30
probably,
years.
yeah.
20, 30 years, you know that way. But listen, if you get them in Morrison for the 99 cents,
They
you'll
do.
never have enough of them. Even if there's 5 of them stuck inside each other, they're well worth it.
Emma is saying that, she says, would the flowers have to be kept outside or inside in the buckets?
Depending on the time of the year, you know that way. It's a bit warm at the moment, like it's kind of muggy sort of weather to store flowers outside, where you would be better off in your house, you know that way, in a room, a dark room with the curtains kind of like pulled to keep the room dark, with the windows open, you know what I mean? So maybe an upstairs bedroom that you're not using, do you know that way, they'd be absolutely perfect in there. When it does come to the class, they all have a job about sterilizing the buckets. So especially the ones at Morrison's or Lidl or Aldi or anywhere. But even the brand new buckets, okay, I won't have time to cover that today, and it's better me demonstrating it, but I know for a fact that there is a video of how to sterilise the buckets on that free conditioning course that I talked about at the very beginning. So if there is anybody late joining us, rewind back to the beginning later on, because we do have a free offer of the course there. So obviously I've all my buckets kind of sterilised already. But back to our roses, okay, so if it's a cheaper rose, I recommend doing this to them. I wouldn't do it to these Portanova roses, it's not necessary, okay, but I'm doing it for the demonstration. So what you do is you wrap up the 10 roses together in your sheet of paper, okay, and you secure it there with a little bit of sellotape. So what this is going to do, it's actually going to do 2 jobs, okay? Have you ever got roses at some stage and the tops of them went over? We call it breaking its neck. Well, this will stop them breaking their neck while they have their first drink. If you think about it, these roses came maybe lying down in a box and they've been asleep, you know what I mean? And they probably have been out of water for maybe, 3 days. So when you get them and you stand them back up straight into your vases or buckets like I have here behind me, the poor flower is a little bit weak. It'd be like you've been in bed for 2 or 3 days and you're after being sick, and then you stood up, to go downstairs, and you feel a bit wobbly and you feel a bit weak. Well, that's exactly what happens to the roses, okay? And that would happen with a lot of the supermarket roses, and that's why the heads go over. So if you do this little trick of wrapping the paper around the heads, okay, before you put them into the water, it helps to support the heads, to keep them standing up straight, to stop the necks kind of breaking over. Now, once you have that, they've had a drink for at least an hour, maybe even 4 hours, you can take that brown paper off and it's absolutely perfect. But there's 2 jobs that the brown paper does, and by the way, make sure it's brown paper, not plastic, okay? Because remember I gave you the class about removing the plastic earlier on. And in case any bright spark says, what about newspaper? No, because you have Irish Independent wrote on your Portanova roses. So brown paper is the best thing to use. The other thing that the brown paper will do, it stops the roses blowing open. Now, I actually want these roses to blow open because I want them to be blown for Saturday night, to be at their best and at their fullest. But maybe you had a wedding on, and maybe you bought the roses in on Wednesday, and we got that really hot weather that we had here about 2 weeks ago. Do you remember the summer? Do you remember the summer in Ireland? It's over now, we're in the autumn now. But if you found that you had a wedding on, what would happen is your roses would be blowing like mad and might end up being too big for some of the jobs that you want them for. So by keeping the paper wrapped around them, it's like a little bit of control over them. You can control how fast they blow open. Basically, they can't blow when they have the brown paper on. And then you can remove the paper and you can let them blow. And then you can say, feck, they're blown too fast, and you can put the paper back on again. So there's two reasons for the brown paper. One is to stop them breaking their necks. And the second one is also to stop them blowing. And it's up to you to choose, because people watching there maybe in a flower shop might say, well, we don't do it. They're the reasons why you do it. So again, maybe the reasons don't actually affect you. The next thing then is cutting the ends. And you can see all our ends are different lengths here. So when we talk about taking an inch or, 1.5, 2 centimeters off the ends of all your flowers, allow that some of the flowers may be shorter. Where if I was to just cut this part, I missed some of the ones that are that little bit shorter. So don't be afraid to take a little bit extra off your roses. So again, 1.5 to 2 inch, 1.5 centimeters to 1 inch, that way, off the end of your roses. And you'll notice there I cut on a slant, okay? There's another reason for that. And again, if you understand the reasons, you're more likely to do it. When you get a rose stem or any flower stem and you cut straight across, okay, you open up a hole, stay the size of that. But when you get your scissors and you cut on an angle, you open up a much deeper or a bigger hole because you're cutting on a 45-degree angle. So when the flower goes to drink up water, there's a bigger surface area for the flower to drink up water. But there's also another reason for it, okay? Sometimes, even though you've sterilised buckets, okay, there could be little bits of dirt in the end of your vase or the end of your bucket. Did your dad, when you were a kid, well, I know my dad used to say this to us when we were driving his car, and of course we'd never put petrol in the car because obviously as kids, Dad fills up the petrol tank, we were driving his car, and sure, if there was no petrol in it, that wasn't our problem. And we would run the car till the last, until there was, like, the light was probably on and we were paddling our feet along the road. And Dad would eat the head off us because he'd say the dirt in the end of the petrol tank was took up into the car. Well, that's what happens to your flowers as well. Sometimes there's little bits of grains, that way, probably little sugar grains, you wouldn't even notice them, that way, in the end of your vase. And when you cut your flower straight across, okay, it's sitting down flat on the end of the bucket and it's drinking up the dirt like the petrol tank. It's taking up the dirt on the end of the tank, okay? Well, when you cut your flower and you cut it on that 45-degree angle, it's on its tippy toes. And the dirt isn't actually going up the hole, that way? So again, if you understand the reasons why you cut things on an angle, you're more likely to do it. If anybody has any questions, put them in the comments below there.
Now we have Bobby is watching in from Saudi Arabia, and Bobby was watching yesterday as well.
Bobby,
so
how are you?
You're very welcome.
Maybe
and actually,
you might share this video for us in Saudi Arabia, and I could get a few Saudi Arabians on my course, Bobby. What do you think?
Yeah.
And anybody else that's watching, I'd really, really appreciate if you did share this video. It'd be brilliant for me. Now, obviously, if you're doing this in real life, you don't be talking and chatting like me and telling you about the petrol tank. One job runs into the other. Like, you shouldn't be here with the flowers still sitting on the table. Now, the next thing that I'm going to show you is more of a commercial idea. And again, some of you may not be in a position to do this. But commercially, we have this chemical called Quick Dip. But I do have a more environmentally friendly version of doing this using boiling water, and that is covered in the free video. So I haven't got time today to show you the boiling water treatment, but if you download the free course I mentioned earlier on, you'll be able to get it. So with the Quick Dip, normally what you do is you just put about 1 centimetre, and I normally use like a little paper cup like this, that I can reuse the chemical that's in it, and then I can basically dispose the cup. You wouldn't want to be using your cup that you're going to drink your cup of tea out, because you don't know what this might do to you afterwards. So what you're then going to do, this is called Quick Dip or Magic Dip, okay? I think in America they call it Magic Dip. And you put the end of your stem down into the Quick Dip, okay, literally for 1 second, and back out again. That's how quick it is. Literally in and out, the way? Just a quickie. We all know what a quickie is, right? You then have your vase, and our vase has already been sterilised. I cover that in the tutorial, the free conditioning video. I have flower food in the water, and it's filled up just over the halfway mark. And you make sure that there's going to be no foliage, that way, going below the water line or dripping down into your bucket. And what you then do is you place them down into it, and you leave them for a minimum of 4 hours, a minimum. Like the longer you can leave them, the better. Now the brown paper, that can be taken off after an hour, do you know that way? Or again, depending, do you want your roses to blow, or would you prefer them, do you know that way, to say the size that they are? So that's a couple of tips and hints, you know that way, on the treatment and the conditioning of flowers. There is like other chemicals that you can buy. This is called Chrysal Glory. And what this will do, it's like a hydrator for the flowers, and it prolongs the life of them. So if I was doing wedding flowers, you know that way, when the wedding bouquet is made, before I would actually send it out to the wedding party, I would put on some of that Chrysal Glory, because again, that is the last drink that the flowers are going to get, because the bride or whoever will be holding in her hand for the rest of the day. And this would be typically what flower food looks like, but if you go to your local florist, you'll be able to buy it in little sachet form, and it's wrote on the back of the sachet, like normally 1 sachet does a vase half filled, or 2 sachets does a bucket half filled, you know the way, depending on obviously the amount of water that fits into your buckets.
Lots of people are saying great tips. Thanks very much. Katrina is watching in from the USA. Raylene is watching in from Australia. Geraldine is watching in from East Cork, and Alexandra is watching in from Portugal. So guys, we'd love you to share it as well.
We'd really appreciate it. Now, yesterday, in case
actually, Jeanette, somebody just said that they didn't realise there was so much involved with the flowers before you even got to
this
use
is it,
them.
you know what I mean? And like all the buckets all have to be filled, and all the buckets had to be sterilised first, you know what I mean? So there's a lot of behind the scenes before you actually start making the arrangements. Again, yesterday, I think we posted a little video. We were getting all the oases ready in the containers, you know that way, for Saturday night. The whole day today will be gone kind of treatment and conditioning. As I said, we haven't even started on some of the boxes yet. And then Saturday, and huge thanks like to a few of our past students.
Yeah, we have a good few of our past students coming in.
Students are coming on Saturday morning at 9 o'clock, 9:30. They'll be all up nice and early. They will meet me in the Mansion House, and they're going to give me a hand, you know that way, because I need a hand.
Yeah, badly.
I won't be able to do it all on my own. Some woman for one woman, but I'm not that good. But another thing, yesterday, in case anybody missed yesterday's live class, was on the cereal wreath, okay? Cereal killer, our cereal wreath using our oats and our barley. Great feedback from it. I think you all loved it. I think every farmer now will have it.
Is watching their fields.
Will have their fields electrocuted or whatever, electrified, to stop people in robbing the stuff, okay? But do you remember we gave away the wreath, the online wreath course, which has, I think, 6 different varieties of door wreaths that you can make, you know the way, because like every time I do a door wreath with you, I show you another tip, I show you another trick, or I show you another technique, because there's so many different ways. Well, I actually have a video, an online video course, you know that way, showing you all these using all the different techniques. And I know we gave away 6 of them free yesterday. You giving that away today, Deirdre?
I didn't really think about it.
Bobby in Saudi Arabia.
Okay, Bobby in Saudi Arabia.
Nice.
Go on, it could be a lady though.
Could be a lady. She sounds nice as well.
Okay, well, I'm literally going to go, and who's up on my screen right now. Avril Hughes, you're going to, if you want a door wreath course, send me an email, info@flowerschoolireland.com. Bobby in Saudi Arabia, send me an email. Laura O'Connell, you're on TikTok, you're watching from Cork in Mallow, send me an email and I'll send you a door course. I can't see anybody commenting on YouTube, so I'm not going to go there. Let me see. Aggie, AGI_LIEP on Instagram. Send me an email and I'll send you a door wreath course.
I'm just glad now I spoke out for you. But we lots of people want to know, could they it up? And I said to them, listen, you can buy it. I said, don't buy it yesterday. I said, wait till today, because what I'll do is I'll give you a discount code. So when you're buying the course, now obviously the names have been called out, you're getting it for free. But anybody that's interested in buying the wreath making course, all you have to do is put the words wreath 100 in the voucher box, and you get €100 off it. You know that way.
So it's 200.
It is a €250 course, but you'll get €100 off it if you use wreath 100. So that brings it down to 100.
Okay, Aggie on Instagram wants to know what's our email. It's info@flowerschoolireland.com.
And Aggie, if you're a follower, a good, reliable, loyal follower, you should know that email address off by heart.
And if you can't get it, go onto our website, flowerschoolireland.com, and click the contact us button.
Yeah.
And do it today before 5 o'clock.
Yeah, and we can get it out.
And we'll get the
So listen, anybody that's watching there that is interested in maybe social media or running a business, like this won't be just only to do with flowers, though we probably will be kind of taking more of a flower angle on it. We do have Denise Inspired joining us in the Flowery Fun group at 1 o'clock. So if somebody can tag the Flowery Fun group, I've no secretary here today, if somebody can tag the Flowery Fun group in the comments, look for it on Facebook. It's just called the K's Flowery Fun group. And Denise will be live there at 1 o'clock, 15-minute content class on content creation and marketing. And then she's going to pop over to Instagram and she's going to do a 15-minute interview over there. So about 1:15
Precious Petals is saying that she got given some sunflowers and that were picked in the field of hope for innate cancer research.
Is that the one down in Cork?
They're all over the place. They're actually, there's a few of them.
I've seen them on Instagram.
And if you're looking for conditioning tips on sunflowers, they're on that free online course as well.
Because there's a few little tricks when you're using sunflowers in flower arranging, and I have that covered over in the treatment and conditioning. So again, if anybody's watching and you haven't yet availed of the free conditioning and treatment course, it covers 60 different varieties of flowers and foliage. Just comment in the comments below there, can you have the link? And then later on this evening, I won't get to it today, but later on this evening, I'll respond to you all and I'll give you the link, I will, and you can just sign up to it. It's completely free and it's well worth it.
That sunflower field is in County Tyrone, and Geraldine has put up the link to the Flowery Fun group on Facebook. If you're on Instagram, the link for the free course is in our bio, and on TikTok, the link for the free course is in our bio as well.
Okay, we're going to love yous and leave yous.
And get back to conditioning.
Back to conditioning, and we are kind of like doing videos as we go along, and we'll continue the videos on Saturday when we're making the arrangements, and knowing Deirdre, she'll combine it all into a little reel, and we'll have that posted over the weekend. And sure, more than likely we'll be on when we're all dressed
well,
up.
we'll have to take a few photos when we're all glammed up now.
Absolutely,
in fairness,
yeah.
We don't get glammed up that often.
We don't get glammed up that often. And I tried on the outfit this morning and it does fit me. Remember, I was wondering, I'd ordered it online and the bag came and the hair was, oh my God, will it fit me after the holidays? But it does. I won't be able to go to the toilet. We'll see why afterwards. Listen, thanks a million for joining us. I'd love if you shared our video, and we'll be back on. We will be on live randomly over the next few days, but we will have a free live class next Wednesday at 12 o'clock again. So thanks a million. Talk to you all soon. Bye bye.